all right, I can use my cheerleader voice. You wanna-
Emily Daly. Here. Richard Jones. Alicia Lundstrom. Here. Ron Ortiz.
Here.
Dr. Guy Archambault.
Okay, just brief, let you know that Dr. Guy is feeling a little bit under the weather, and so I'll be taking his place for tonight, so if I make any excuses, you can come up and slap me. Okay, are there any changes to the agenda, Mr. Superintendent?
No, good evening, Madam Board. There are no changes, and I recommend that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Roll call vote, or, we need a motion, right?
Yes.
We have a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda tonight.
We have a second?
I second.
Moved by Mr. Ortiz and seconded by Ms. Lundstrom to approve the agenda. Okay. Adoptions.
Roll call.
Roll call, sorry, roll call?
Emily Hunt Daly.
Yes?
Alicia Lundstrom. Yes. Ron Ortiz.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay,
Motion carries.
motion carries 3-1. Okay, and next in line, let's, a recommendation for adoption of minutes.
Okay, Madam Chair, Board, I recommend that we adopt the minutes of May 17th as presented.
I hear a motion?
I'll move to approve the minutes of May 17th, 2022.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Ron Martinez, seconded by Ms. Alicia Lundstrom. Did I say Martinez? Ortiz.
Okay. You called worse.
Emily Hunt Daly.
Yes?
Alicia Lundstrom. Yes. Ron Ortiz.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion passed and approved 3-0. Okay, so call vote. Okay, moving on to recognitions.
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Superintendent,
Madam Chair, Board, once again, good evening, everyone. There's a lot to be recognized. However, this evening, I'd like, instead for all of us, we could stand and if everybody join me in a moment of silence for all the students that were massacred in the last couple of weeks. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Superintendent, do we have any citizens to address the board?
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, Board, audience, we do have some requests for citizens to address the board.
Okay, do I need to read this out?
Yes.
Okay, no action or discussion by the board will occur with all matters referred to the superintendent. Courtesy towards the board and staff is encouraged as board policy stresses under GCCS Board Policy 2150. Personal attacks upon board members, staff personnel, or other persons in attendance or absent by individuals who address the board are discouraged. Presenters are cautioned that statements or representations concerning others that convey an unjustly unfavorable impression may subject the presenter to civil action for defamation. Policies KE, KEB, KEC, and KED are provided by the board for disposition of legitimate complaints, including those involving individuals. You will be given 3 minutes to make your presentation.
Madam Chair, we have Ms. Penelope Smith Kuipers.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board and Superintendent Perez, I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I know many times community members like myself don't come to these meetings or seem to pay much attention to the work you do until there's a complaint. So I wanted to begin by thanking you for your commitments to our school system. Two of you sitting here today worked at Laguna Acoma while I was a student there, and our president, who's absent tonight, was a coworker of my mother's at Cabero for a number of years while I was growing up. So I'm sure that you know that my parents and I have had a longstanding commitment to this community and a love for this community that I know you guys share, and I know that you want to leave your mark on the future by using your values and experience to serve our students and teachers. The reason I am here tonight is because we do have an issue of discrimination in our school district, and it's a long-standing issue of discrimination. And I have plenty of examples I could draw from, ranging from race and age and religion and disability discrimination. But the reason why I want to address this is because it is such an important thing for us as a community to eliminate. And really that starts with the school system. In order to see discrimination that is systemic in our society squashed and removed altogether, it starts with a school system that is bringing up the next generation to not discriminate and to show that everyone has a place and everyone has the right to be respected for exactly who they are without them having to make changes to society's standards. And it's something that means a lot to me, but it also, I know, affects teachers and students in our school system. And it is something that will continue to affect our society until attitudes are changed. The reason I am addressing you tonight is because those attitudes, those changes, they have to come from the top. In order for really our community to be able to grow and change, it has to come from the leadership to be passed down, because you guys set the standards for how staff in this community behaves, and those are the people who shape the minds of the future. I would love to be able to talk with you about this more. I know I've probably spent my 3 minutes, but I can certainly email you lots of information. I've been doing quite a bit of research, but it is something that I am passionate about, and I really would like to see there be some concrete steps taken to change things in our system that result in inequality. Thank you.
Thank you for the information, and we'll direct that to our superintendent. Are those all the citizens to address the board?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's move on our agenda and begin with section 5, presentations. Ms. Reyna?
So, Madam Chair and Board, I'd like to preface this by letting you know that we continue to work on the career pathways and career technical education. And we want to work our way to having the board give an actual approval at our next board meeting on June 21st. But as you know, we've been trying to keep the board abreast of all of the things that have been taking place, the expenses that have been made, the changes that we're looking forward to give our students more opportunities and different careers. First, I'd like to say that last week, I think I shared with some of you that we had a very productive, exciting meeting at Grants High School last week. And we had folks from all walks of the community. For example, we had Chamber of Commerce, we had realtors, we had people from the community, businesses. We had some principals there, staff members, teachers. We had tribal members from all parts of our county. There's a picture here on the screen, gives you just an example of some of the folks that were there. But at this meeting, the whole idea was to present to them a lot of the things that we have been working on, as you know, for the last year and a half. So it kind of brought it to the attention of the community, and it was well received. And I'd like to just share a little bit more about where things are with the career pathways.
So since that meeting, I've got a lot of feedback. Leading up to that, I went out and I took invitations personally to people and talked to them. And I think that got a lot of excitement in our community. Almost all of the people that I went and delivered invitations to personally got to show up. I did get to talk to some people from the Pueblo of Laguna who had another engagement at that time. So Dr. Williams and I are planning to do kind of a smaller just for them presentation so that they're not left out of this part because we wanted everybody involved. But the feedback that I got after this meeting was one of so much excitement. From the chamber, Miss Brenda Curright said that she was so excited to see that our students would be producing different things with our multimedia. And she said, why are we paying for commercials? Why are we paying for flyers and pamphlets outside when we can source them from our own high school students? And so just things like that, but those partnerships is what we were looking for. The partnerships for internships, for jobs, for things like that. Also, since then, we've met with the Skills USA for the state of New Mexico. They're really excited with what we're doing with our DLPs and with finding standards because New Mexico doesn't have a whole lot of standards from within the state for CTE. And so the ones that we've sourced from other states, they want to look at those too and eventually try to adopt for the state. And so this is really exciting because what we're doing is aligning with what the state is doing, but we're taking steps beyond what they've taken already with the state of New Mexico CTE. So that's exciting for us too. Some of the other things are that they've been waiting for things like this. They've been waiting for partnerships. They've been waiting for students that are ready for jobs right after high school or during their post-secondary to be able to come on it. And so the feedback that we got from this was really, really good. Some of the other things is just continuing to create the DLPs. So we have a spreadsheet that just kind of keeps us going and shows which courses we've created them for, which we haven't. And we're continuing to work on that. And our goal is to have them all completed by the next board meeting. And so the pathways that I showed you last time with all of the programs of study underneath them, that kind of schedule out from 7th grade to 12th grade, what it would look like, those are also completed. And so that's exciting to have that one done. We're scheduling some meetings with Mr. Widener and with Mr. Sanchez and the Student Success Advisor. So as they're advising students to go into the next courses, what that looks like versus our graduation requirements. And so where our students already are and how it would look to go into these pathways. Because for some of our students that are already in high school, it's going to take a little bit to get them to where they're progressed through enough since they've been in, 7th grade or 9th grade, depending on where they are right there. And then just continuing to meet with partners on equipment, state-of-the-art equipment, really good things for our students. The internship opportunities, like we said earlier, and then program evaluation is a very important part for us. And I know that, I don't know if you want to speak to that a little bit with the Johns Hopkins University, the Casey Foundation. We're meeting with them again tomorrow to talk more about how they can partner with us to evaluate our CTE program from beginning and track students outside of high school to see how many of them are successful because of our program. So
Ms. Michelle Starnes is now part of Johns Hopkins University, and they are a research university. And their role with us is going to be to look at our program, assist us in looking at the students' post-program, so after they graduate, and see where they're actually going and if this help, what kind of an impact that our high school programs have had in their careers. So we're looking forward to that. I'm also asking them to look at it as a program evaluation, to look at the whole program and evaluate how we're doing with it. So we're looking forward, like I said, to have a meeting with them tomorrow. And Michelle, along with Michelle Starnes, she has the backup of a lot of university personnel to assist us in getting the outside look on the programs that we're pushing forward with.
Any questions, board members?
No, I'm just excited it's happening. It's good.
What kind of participation, as well as student numbers, are we looking at, or is that just wide open?
it's wide open, and so all of our students will be able to participate in this coming forward. I know Mr. Widener has a tracker because at all middle school and high schools do, but I've seen his particularly several times where students have picked kind of a pathway, and just remember they don't have to stay in that pathway. If they get in, take a class or two and decide this isn't for me, this is not what I want, then they can still change, and it's an elective credit, and it's still experience that they can use at some point. But so he has a tracker that shows student interest in the different areas, and so that helped him to make class numbers and sizes, and how many of this class are we gonna have to have because we have so many students enrolled or wanting to enroll in this one, or we don't have the numbers we should in this one. Is it something that we're doing with not advertising that, or not asking our students exactly what they need and those kind of things? So those are things that we're working out as we schedule. So Steve Brown's been over helping him schedule and create all of those lists and everything too. So as soon as we get rolling with the school year and schedules built, then I'll have exact numbers actually for you. And so through Synergy, we can pull all of those exact numbers, which is exciting.
And we're including both middle schools and high schools?
Both middle schools and high schools are included. It looks a little bit different just because the interests at the two schools are a little bit different. And then, for example, at Laguna Acoma High School, there wasn't a big, there's a huge interest in the welding program there, and Ms. Riley's doing a great job there. But there wasn't as big of an interest with the building trades. And so they looked to see how they could expand the welding, doing some manufacturing and some machining and that kind of stuff. And so that's what we're looking to do, is to expand that program to where it's a really robust program there. So that one looks a little bit different than what we're offering at Grants High School even, but fitting the needs of what the kids are wanting. So.
And do we have the equipment for that machinery?
Yeah, we're, Madam Chair, we're continuously purchasing some pretty significant equipment for the program. We spent a lot of money like on redoing the culinary arts hood, to buying new state-of-the-art welding equipment, to purchasing, as you'll see this evening, the cadaver tables where you can look at human bodies and look at the anatomy and physiology involved in that. And it's pretty cutting edge technology with those tables. Very few in the state. We're gonna have one at each high school. And I think there's even very few universities that are able to acquire these. So we're pretty proud of some of the equipment that we purchased for the CTE program so far. And we'll continue to make some purchases. As you know, we put aside a significant amount of money for the career pathways.
Okay.
So I just wanna make a comment, again, you know, like Mr. Ortiz said, it's very exciting. And you know, I know you're just setting the groundwork right now, but you know, some of these kids, they don't have an idea yet in mind, like you said, so they go from different pathways. But I just hope that there's student academic advisors that are involved to help shepherd them through this, especially because it's new. And also parent involvement, you wanna make sure that you get them involved once you have everything in place so that they're on board and they buy in.
Right. One of the things that we decided early on was that our exploratory classes for careers in the 7th and 8th grade would be a semester long rather than a year long. And so they have the opportunity to take different exploration courses at the middle school. And sometimes that might not be enough, you know, they might have to go into high school and decide if that's not for them, but it gives them an opportunity to see if that's something that they like or they want to do.
Excellent. I think we could use some updates along the way to see how well the program is progressing. Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay, next, budget update, current status.
Yes, sir, Madam Chair, members of the board, by request, the board had asked for us to give an update on where we're at now with the budget. As you know, it has already been submitted to the state, and we're at the point of having it reviewed by different personnel at the state. And I think Mr. Baldonado can give you the latest.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Mr. Superintendent. This budget update, as the superintendent mentioned, we are already there with submitting our budget to the state. We have some updates to do that we have plenty of time to do before the end of this month. But this is where we're at. So I just want to remind everyone that our budget without the ESSER funds, without the Carissa ARP funds, the ESSER funds, is $91,766,000, right? 60% of that, or $54,000 million, is for on the 11,000, the operational fund, for salaries, benefits, and daily operational needs. We also, because of the bond issuance that we have in the building, we also have some debt service that's about 13% of our fund. 10% going to capital, various capital things outside of the bonds, but $9 million there. And then state and federal flow through $2.9 million. So this is just where we are without the ESSER funds. If we add the remainder of the ESSER funds that we have, our budget will be upwards of $102 million this year. Pretty significant. Here's where we are in terms of how we're going to be dispersing capital and building funds out of the GO bond building. That's so the fund number is on the left, that 31,000 number, 31,100. $6.8 million we budgeted this year for expenditures. Capital improvements on the Senate Bill 9, the SB 9. That fund, remember, funds maintenance and operations. It buys everything from fixing tennis courts, as we discussed last time, to various smaller projects and buying paper towels and other things like that. 772,000. 31,701, which is the capital improvements local that we collect in taxes, 695,000, and then the state matches $1.1 million there. So that's how the building capital funds shape up this year in the budget. And then we have debt service where we collect money to service our debt. And we have to report to the state that we'll be collecting about $11 million, paying out $11 million in debt service for the various bonds. And then for the ed tech notes, which are retiring this year, another $1 million. We're gonna go out, we've been talking with the finance committee about going out later next year, early next year for an additional ed tech notes, which is we borrow money to finance technology right? And then we get at a very, very low interest, paying over a long period of time. And this is the one where we talked about because of our cash balance that we could borrow a one-day loan from the New Mexico Financing Authority and then pay it back the next day so we don't have to pay any interest or very little interest. And we'll just get it done. And we get the money that quickly. Then here is our budget approval process that we walked through. If you remember, February through April, we walked through forecasting, feedback, getting some foresight from different stakeholders. Then we evaluated staffing needs, which was no easy task, I have to say, this year, just so you know. And then along with that, we had to budget what the new salary schedule would be like with the teachers and with the mandate across the board average increase of 4%, which we exceeded. This year, if you remember last year this year in March, you approved that mid-year wage rate adjustment for the hourly employees, which catapulted them from $12 minimum to $16 minimum, and they got the benefit of that for the remainder of this year. So that was very good. So we'll be moving into the next year planning with much higher salaries and wages for employees, which I'm very happy about. Then we put our draft budgets and presentations, and we went out on the road and made these presentations, got feedback from various areas. And then we went to the spring budget workshop where we got even more information about our unit value and other changes that the PED was making in terms of how we were going to structure the budget. One big part of that was the change in the chart of accounts, which is a project that I fortunately was able to be part of. And so that's just how we categorize expenses. And then there's a new initiative called the Transparency Initiative, how we report that out and make it available to the public. So a lot of work in the background in order to make things available for the public moving forward. They'll be able to see, for example, how much we spend for different programs at different schools, right? And that takes a lot of work to take it from where we were in terms of our reporting with the PED to what the PED and the legislature have mandated moving forward. And then we finalized our budgets, and just recently, last week, we had our last meeting with our budget analyst and his supervisor. We went line by line, sort of a tedious meeting with everything that we submitted into the OBMS, which is the online budget management system through PED. They've approved everything through there, and now, once we hit the little submit button and we formalize and tighten everything up, it'll go to each of the little budget managers who will then take it to the assistant superintendent and ultimately the director for budgets, who I met with on Friday, and he's good with everything we're doing, so I think we're not gonna have any problems with that. The only thing we have left to do here is to, there's a couple of awards that we're waiting on and that we haven't been able to put in there. Today, for example, we were waiting for the Family Income Index Award, which we got today. I think I sent that to you today. So it's not huge, it's $35,000, but it check boxes, one of the things we can check off that we finalized. The next thing we have to do is finalize the Impact Aid Special Education budget allocation, which we don't know yet. The same thing with, we had some changes to the IDEA-V allocation. The ESSER funds, of course, which would be moving forward. I'm estimating probably another $14 million, not another, but moving forward the $14 million unspent money into the new budget, and then the rural low income index budget. So, but that we have until the rest of the year. I think we're well on our way. I'm very pleased that this is off my back now and we can just move forward with planning, right? I do want to bring you up to speed with a couple of things here. Yesterday, I met with the Public Schools Facilities Authority. If you recall, they're the state agency that shares with us in the cost of capital improvement and projects, right? So previously, this group and the state had given us permission to spend $3.8 million, almost $4 million out of the ESSER funds to replace the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning units and the roof over at Laguna Alcama School, which we've already started. We already started that process. PO was issued, all of that. I found out yesterday through the PSFA, that they're willing to share in that cost for us, which I was dancing on the roof when I found that out, up to 69%, which relieves us of $2.6 million, which we can then put back into the ESSER funds for other uses. I was talking with superintendent yesterday about where we could thoughtfully make those happen and where we could put that money. So ultimately, our district share is going to be $1.19 million out of the ESSER funds. I'm very pleased with that. And the next thing is, we also wanted to update you on the Blue Water Elementary funding boost that we received $850,000 secured by Representative Garcia to be used as a legislative allocation for the Blue Water Elementary School building, right? And so it's issued, the way that works is we don't get a check in the mail. I was looking for a check in the mail just because I like big checks, but we didn't get it, right? And the way that works is they issue a credit to the PSFA because we're already starting on that project. They're sharing in that with us, and they're going to be using that to reduce the amount of the outlay that the district has to make with our share. And out of that, and that's how the $850,000 is being allocated. So it's a big boost for us. It's going to really help us a lot. We can use it for other things that are not part of the state allocation. They don't call it above adequacy anymore. They call it above allowance. So if there are other things that we want to spend it on, furniture, things like that, that are outside of the scope of work that was previously approved, we can do that. We can spend it. So that's where we're at. I'm open to any questions.
Any questions, board members?
I just have a question. So the first page, the percentages equal up to 86%.
Yeah.
So you're saying the rest of the budget comes from where? The next steps, what you're
There's
talking about?
a whole lot of smaller items, food service, transportation, all the other operational things. I only pulled out a few of them.
Oh,
I was not intending to give you 100%.
oh,
I should have made that clear. Thank you.
Another piece of good news is like the impact aid, it's not compared to the big budget, but it's still significant that, you know, we used to get 1.2 million. We are now receiving the full impact aid every year, so that's closer to about 3 million. So that's another good little pocket of news for us as we move forward. But the other thing I want to say is like the unit value, it's gone up, but so have our wages and salaries, so it's kind of a wash. So we got an increase in funding, but we also increased all of our salaries, so it turned out to be a nice balance right there. So, but I think at the end of the day, it looks like a ton of money, which it is, but that money is coming and going. It's going to come and go. So we're being very careful and we're being very conservative about making sure that at the end of the day, when all of the bigger funds are gone, that we can still maintain all of the expenses and the staff that we have, so that we don't have any kind of big shifts at the end when the money's no longer there, the funding cliff.
Okay,
Just,
okay.
Mr. Maldonado, good news on Blue Water Schools. I was glad to hear that. Where are we on our Mesa View project? Everything going smoothly there, or?
Yeah, I'm going to meet tomorrow with our liaison with the PSFA to go over all of their projects and where we are with that. We're still in the early design phase with that. They walked me through that yesterday. We're going to walk through the many projects that we have outstanding with PSFA, which include a lot of the safety projects that we've been doing, the cameras, the safety alerts, those kinds of things in the various schools. So I'll have a better update for you at the next board meeting. Since I'm so new to this after Mr. Lee left, this is a good, I'll have more information. But to answer your question, we're on track with that so far. And you'll see as we walk through, there's another action item later on with the DOT, New Mexico DOT, that is sort of the first leg in preparing for that new school there.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
It does, sir. Thank you.
Okay, a couple of questions. The ESSER funds, you talked about 14 million. Have those been obligated so that we get them? I don't know if it's that, yeah, without the ESSER funds, the Carissa and all that stuff. All those funds you said will be expended?
So so there are two more pools of money. One of them is the Carissa money, right,
Okay.
which was the 6 point something million, top I can't remember. And then there's the $14 million from the ARP money, right? And so we have to expend the Carissa money first, which we're on track to do. We have until next fall to do
Oh,
that.
okay.
And then the ARP money, we have until 2024 to do, but there's also an extension that can take us all the way through mid-2025. And I was talking to Mr. Perez earlier today, when we put that $2.6 million back into the ESSER funds, we might consider extending some of that funding all the way through 2025, so there's not this big rush to jump off the cliff and spend it all and then have to rely on GO money for everything. So as he mentioned with the salaries and wages, even though we got that big boost in the unit value and the big boost in money, it never pays 100% of the burden on the district for salaries and wages. As you know, we have taxes we have to match, ERB, things like that. We're pulling some of that money out of GO to pay for that, as we do every year, so it never ever funds 100% of the total burden on the school district. Does that make sense? So we're gonna continue that. So the longer we can defray those costs out of GO using the ESSER fund, I think the better, right? And as we, you'll see as we begin to expend more and more for the large project with CTE, you'll see some of that begin to spend down. But then we have smaller projects and other things like work on the various projects that we have in the original spending allocation for ARP that we can extend later on. Some of the money in these two funds is funding some people, right, who ordinarily that funding would end and their job would end, and we would have to determine how to continue that through GO in 2024. This takes the pressure off of us a little bit. Does that answer your question?
Yes. The other thing I was looking at, I know you mentioned the boost from the congressional funds for Blue Water. At one time, we were talking about square footage, that PFA was limited it to a certain square footage. Can that be that, what is it, 800,000?
850,000.
Can that be used to increase the square footage, or do we have to go with what the plan, the architectural plans are?
So the project,
If you like, Madam Chair, so the square footage that we went back and forth on, we debated for quite some time. We did land at the number that we wanted to land at.
okay.
So we got the large square footage where we want it to be. So this money can be used to offset some of the extra money that we were needing to extend that. So I think overall, we're in a much better place than we were a year ago with the whole project.
Well, please extend our thanks, appreciation to Mr. Garcia for getting us that extra. I know we've hit on our congressional leaders, that Mr. Sanchez was very instrumental in getting some extra funding for us too, as well as for the new school and then some other things that we needed. So I don't think we extend our appreciation to them like we should, because they go to bat for us at the upper levels. The next thing, you talked about the mid-year wage increase that we gave our staff. Does that make us truly now competitive with others, similar school districts?
it exceeds what other school districts are paying. So the legislature, in this year mandated across an average of 4% rate wage increase for all employees. With the mid-year wage rate adjustment that we put on early on, we exceeded the $15 target that the state had by going to $16. And then the state also mandated increases for minimums for teachers, right? And so their original intent when we were going into the new year, this coming year, was to take a teacher who was, let's say at level 2, earning $52,000, level 2 minimum is $60,000, their intent was to move that teacher at 52 and put them at $60,000. That wasn't good enough for us. We said, well, there's no way that, well, I wouldn't, if I was a teacher at that, if I was at step 3, for example, then I would go to a minimum, even though it was a huge increase, right? So we moved everyone to the right on the scale, which meant that we had increases that went from 15 to 22%, so very significant. So in that respect, we not only took care of the employees today, we also took care of them moving into the new year. We exceeded what the PED was recommending, and that certainly put us in a more highly desirable wage scale and made very much different in terms of competitiveness for us. So we're in a very good position now. I think we should all be proud of how that all came out.
Very good. Above all, we want to make sure we take care of our staff. I think that was all the questions I had regarding.
Madam
Oh,
Chair.
one last thing. The law conference that we just attended on Monday, I found out that we could use impact aid money for building. That's the things that weren't funded or were beyond the PFSA's scope, that we can now use that as well. Have we looked into needs, or do we have? And you can bring that up to us at the next meeting,
Yes.
okay, or at a future meeting. And then the other thing, I've also, they let us know when we were talking about budget, that you said you submitted the budget. They always told us, get the budget in early, and then they can do very little to change it. If you get it in late, then it becomes more scrutinized. The later you submit it, the more scrutinization you get. But you got ours in on time or ahead of time?
Yes, so great question, because it's real, there is we have to develop a good partnership with the PED and those budget analysts, right? And so it was really important for us to be able to do that early on. And they were very helpful to us in finalizing the budget. They took their time. They came back to us with some questions. We set up a couple of Zooms. We sat down for a couple of hours with them. And it was very important to me that our budget analyst at the PED was on board with us, because those are the folks who are gonna go to bat for us when it goes to final approval with the director of the budget, director of budget for the PED. The other thing is, because I was on this committee with the director of budgets with the PED, I didn't know that was gonna happen, but he just asked me to be on this committee to evaluate the chart of accounts. We have a very good working relationship. He called me the other day on Friday, walked through a couple of items with our budget, especially having to do with the amount of money that we put in reserves. And he says, your budget's gonna sail right through, Mr. Maldonado. We're very happy. So we have advocates for us at the PED. The timing was not an issue. The relationship of getting them to be, go to bat for us is, so I feel we have a really smooth year this year. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and keep up those relationships.
Madam Chair, one more. I'd like to make a couple of more notes while we're on budget, because I think it's important with the federal funds. So Mr. Maldonado and his team have done a lot of work on cleaning up. We've talked about this in previous board meetings where we had due froms with the state from like 10 years ago or more, or around that time period. So the reconciliation of those federal funds back and forth from the district to the state had never been really balanced out. So Mr. Maldonado's put a ton of work into seeing that we pay what's paid and we get paid what we're owed. So that's finally gotten to the point where we're at maybe the final check that has to be written to clean that all up. So we're talking about cleaning up about 10 years worth of unreconciled differences. So that's one. Now, the other thing I think is important to know about federal funds is, in years past, and I've seen it with other districts, is a lot of federal funds, because they're not expended properly, will go back to the state and then back to the federal government. So we're back into the pool, so the district loses out on those funds. I have to tell you that our federal programs, Dr. Martin, and the work that he's done has ensured that all of our federal funds are being expended and we are not returning money as a practice that has been done in the past, not only here but in other districts. But so that's, I think that's worth mentioning, and I think it's, we're in a much better practice with those types of things. So, good job.
Well, thank you, both of you. I think you've done an extreme effort to keep us balanced. And maybe, Mr. Martin, we could see where some of those balances happened and how they're expending the money. I don't know, do we get that in our budget report too, as far as federal programs
Yes, ma'am. All the federal budgets are part of
of the
what Mr.
original
Maldonado
budget?
is reporting.
Okay.
We keep track of where those monies are going and whether we're meeting all the requirements that they've set for us for them not to take money back and all that. So
I think we want every penny.
we want every
every penny for our students.
Well, see, this is the first I've heard that we've sent money back and, I've never, in all the years I've been here, I've never known that. And we sure don't want to give the feds back their money.
I just have one question. So when will this be available for the public, the approved final budget, and where will it be located?
I'm imagining that by the time the PED does all their work with all the budgets, sometime in September, October, and that the transparency tool that we're still working on will be available sometime in December.
And where would this be located?
On the PED, but it's the PED's project, not ours.
Oh,
Yeah, so we're supplying them with information, but we're not the ones pushing it out. Does that make sense?
okay, thank you.
Okay, moving right along. Is this everything for letter B? We can move on to NMSBA Policy Services Advisory. Ms. Salazar.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, as you know, the New Mexico School Board Association Policy Services issues policy advisories to us. Last board meeting, we presented the first read of policies 229 to 232 for your review. And this evening, we'd like to have you see if you have any additional questions for any of those policies as we move to under action items, approve these. So Ms. Salazar, I don't know if you're there, if you can give us a brief recap of those policies.
My pleasure. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, citizens, and Superintendent Mr. Pettis. So we do have 4 policy advisories. Our first policy advisory is in our DO, Disposition of School Facilities in Charter Schools, which is a completely new section. And what that indicates is that we as districts should have a prioritizing plan and notify any charter schools that are within our district if we have any facilities that are available for lease or purchase. The second advisory, which is GBA, Equal Employment Opportunity. So this is just an amended section, and it's just expanding the scope of the Equal Employment Opportunity Mandate, and it's consistent with the protected categories listed in the New Mexico Human Rights Act. Policy Advisory 231, which is GCIA. It's a teacher residency program. This is an entirely new section as well. And what this is, it's just the new law. It's providing a full year of guided apprenticeship for teaching residents in the classrooms, and they will be partnered with either a level 2 or a level 3 teacher, as well as training, and they will be receiving stipends for not only the teacher resident, the supervising teachers, and the administrators and program coordinators with that program. And of course, the end result is with the opportunity of having that teacher resident, an employee with our district, and they must make a commitment of 3 years of teaching in the sponsoring district. The last policy advisory, 232, which is GE retiree return to work. This is a new subsection of the Educational Retirement Act, and what they're doing is they're allowing any retirees to sit out for 90 days on their retirement date and then return to work without suspension of any benefits of their retirement benefits. And so they can actually work for 36 consecutive months, which is equal to 3 years. And so those are the 4 policies that we have for your approval.
Did we get those in our packet? I didn't see them.
Action item.
Yes.
Okay. It's got the New Mexico NMSU grants budget. That's what I have. I don't have.
It's a reaction.
This is the very last one, under action item section. This is the very last one.
Blue ones. Oh, okay, sorry.
The road fund, and then that's.
Okay, and we need do we need a vote on this?
Not yet.
Not yet. Are we gonna get a third read? On
No,
this? No?
No. We'll vote on it on action items, action item D.
That's what I just asked, and you said
Yeah.
no.
I'm sorry. I thought you meant now.
No.
Sorry about that.
So do we need a motion to,
Not till we get to the action item.
Yeah.
oh, okay,
That's what.
so we're gonna move to the board member disclosure of contract employment?
Yes, thank you, madam. This is, as far as a disclosure, I just want to make the public aware that I do have a role as a physical therapist in the school district. However, it is an employee of a company that contracts with the schools. I spoke with a school attorney, he said this is permissible. However, I just wanted to disclose that, and if there's any appearance of impropriety regarding the matters in the agenda, then I will recuse myself, but just to make you all aware. Thank you.
Okay, so we move on to the action items?
Madam Chair, members of the board, first action item is consideration of approval for the 2022-2023 New Mexico State University grants operating budget. We do this annually for the university. Madam Chair, I recommend approval, and we have Miss Dr. Toivanen here with us to present the information. I think we need a motion.
We need do we have a motion to,
I'll move to.
do we have a second? Who seconded it?
Can we?
And it's gonna be as presented on, there's no amendment to it, right? Roll call vote,
We don't vote yet.
you don't vote on this, it's
Until
just,
after the
oh, okay, so
Dr. Toivanen.
we'll put it in your hands, Mr. Torvanen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Pettis. Thank you for consideration of the 22-23 NMSU grants operating budget. In your packet, you have a summary of the work that we've been doing at our campus these last few years over COVID. We have seen, we've been the only NMSU campus to see an increase in enrollment. Our enrollment has increased 9.2% this last year. Our operating budget is roughly $11.7 million. That includes the annual allocation for capital outlay, BR&R, and our state appropriations. Through the last year, we received 1.3 million in higher education relief funds to assist, that's the CARES money from the COVID, to assist with online learning and direct student support. I'm happy to say that most of those funds went straight to students, supporting their efforts to remain in school and stay making progress towards their plan. We've had very good support from our local legislators in the area of CTE from both Senator Sanchez and Representative Garcia. And most recently, we've been allocated funds for a tribal education initiative to help keep our tribal populations on track and toward degree completion. So we're gonna start the work with that. Our retention numbers have looked good. However, because most of our students have been part-time, we have been struggling with completion. The preliminary enrollment numbers for the fall indicate that our students are returning to a full-time status. So that's very promising to look at completion numbers moving forward. Our big initiatives at the campus for programming are going to be workforce development, skilled trades, and health careers to meet an education to meet the needs of our local economy and Cibola County. I would like for you to consider the budget as submitted. Thank you, and I stand for question.
Any questions for Dr. Torgan? No. Well, thank you for the information. Being a NMSU alumni myself, it's always good to hear students going to the university. If you ever need somebody to sing the school song, I know it.
All right, that sounds great.
Okay, so we're going to move to accept.
We got a motion and a second, so it's be a roll call vote after
Okay.
questions.
All right, do a roll call vote.
Emily Hunt Daly,
Yes.
Nisha Lundström,
Yes.
Ron Ortiz,
Yes.
Motion budget passes as presented.
Thank you for your consideration and have a good evening.
Thank you, Dr. Torvan. Okay, next page. Okay, now we're going to consideration of approval of the student from Grants High School to graduate early.
So, Madam Chair, members of the board, I do recommend that we approve this action item.
Good afternoon. My name is Aiden Ford, and I'm requesting to graduate early. I wrote a short passage if you guys want to hear about it. My reach for further education started when I was quite young. At a young age, my mother pushed me to my full potential, allowing only A's and B's. We drove 20 minutes every day so I could attend a Blue Ribbon Elementary School in Blue Water. I excelled in all my classes and came home every quarter with A's in my progress report cards. By middle school, I was class president 2 years in a row and president for MESA at an after-school program that worked with students to better their education. Being rewarded with certificates of achievement at every step, I finally reached high school. During my first year of high school, I took 3 college classes, managed to complete them alongside playing a dual sport, tennis and soccer. COVID sadly interrupted my sophomore year here at GHS, but I was offered a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to attend an art school I applied for the previous year, NMSA. Without a second thought, I signed the papers and began driving back and forth twice a week to Santa Fe. During my time in Santa Fe, I was tested on my independence and maturity. I made quite a few mistakes, but what 16-year-old wouldn't? I got to experience more than the average teen, both good and bad, but it shaped me to who I am today. Due to my extensive independence and real-world experience, I've made the decision to take the steps to graduate early. I believe my life has moved past the borders of Grants High School, both academically and mentally. Not only do I know I'm ready for my next step, I'm anxious for it. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Question, what art school did you go to, Santa?
It's NMSA, it's Performing Arts School in Santa Fe. It's by like the plaza, it's on Guadalupe.
Excellent. Is that going to be your career pathway?
Maybe. It's something that I tested the waters into. It was graceful.
Excellent. Thank you, Mother, for supporting his endeavors.
Just so you'll know, as you get older and you get as old as us, you continue to make mistakes. Just thought I'd throw that in for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So that's just part of growing up.
Some of us more than others.
Right. Good job, congratulations.
Yes, congratulations.
Okay, so your recommendation is
Recommend to approve and then
we need a motion? We need a
motion and second.
I make the motion.
Okay, Alicia.
I'll
And
second.
Ron. Okay. The motion carries.
Emily Hunt
Emily?
Daly,
Yes.
Alicia Lundstrom,
Yes.
Ron Ortiz.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries, congratulations. Moving on to number C, consideration of approval of the Career Technical Education Virtual Dissection Table. This is our cadaver table
Yes, ma'am, and Madam Chair, I do recommend that we approve this action item.
as presented. Do we have?
Motion.
I'll move to approve.
Okay, motion made by Ron, oh, there it is. Do I have a second?
Are we discussing or are we just approving?
Get to the motion second and then discussion.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry then, I second.
I think we were all kind of moved by looking at the table here. Okay, any discussion? I'm sorry, motion passes.
Well, no, we, discussion now. It's,
Okay.
can somebody talk about this?
Yeah, so these, I don't like calling them cadaver tables, that scares me. These are, virtual dissection tables
Okay,
that allow science teachers to provide students with a variety of scenarios in dissecting and looking at anatomy, physiology, things like that. You'll see in the proposal that these are $79,000, somehow I changed my slide out of front of me, each. This table will be state-of-the-art, in fact, way advanced over, as Mr. Perez said, many universities don't even have this. This is really, again, catapult both high schools into an area that would be very attractive for individuals, for students, and would, again, give us a leading edge in terms of science and technology as part of our overall CTE program. There's one for each of the high schools. We would not be buying these until after July. We wanted you to approve what we're asking for is to approve the quote, and then we will then take, once you do that, that gives us permission to administer the purchase order. But because we're so close to the end of the school year, we have to close out the school year first, and then we'll issue the PO in July, and then take delivery later on. And I imagine, if I were Raina, I'd be walking you guys through a demonstration of how this works when we get it, because it's quite impressive.
it looks like I can see that it's the anatomy right there on the table.
Yeah.
Wow,
It's impressive.
come a long way from dissecting frogs to whatever you wanna call that.
And in addition to these, there's also ebooks for the students that work on their Chromebooks, so that as they go home, they can still study these parts in there to where you can move them around and see the different angles, and you can do like a dissect, cut part apart and look through, and taking the anatomy and physiology for sure to another level. That our goal is to engage students, and if students aren't engaged by this, then I'm not sure what else to do.
Sure.
I was just wondering the class sizes for the anatomy physiology, do you know that yet?
Do you know class sizes or how many classes of anatomy and physiology you have?
They have 4 sections, so 60 students. And then we have a medical terminology section, which will be
So 15 students in each anatomy and physiology class?
correct. We're trying to keep the CTE numbers small, so that way the kids will have more of that hands-on experience.
Yeah, because I was just wondering the dimensions, I mean, it looks good, looks like you could probably fit 8 people around the table.
The tables themselves are 7 foot 3 inches.
Okay.
They have smaller tables available, but we said if we're gonna do this, we need to do it right.
And they're mobile as well.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh,
They have covers and cases that go with them to protect them. And then, like Mr. Maldonado said, we'll have one at Grants High School and one at Laguna Acoma High School.
and their class size will be roughly the same?
Laguna Acoma High School is a little bit smaller, it's just
Okay,
because
so
of their smaller
Smaller
numbers.
even, that's good.
And so what careers are we pushing them toward with these kind of classes? Doctors, nurses?
These would be health science. Health
So-
science pathway, and so it would align with NMSU's medical nursing program. It would, if they were interested in being a doctor, we have students that could graduate as a certified phlebotomist, and be certified to draw blood, paramedics, all of that, the kind of health field,
Physical therapists.
physical therapy.
Same.
Yeah.
We need to talk about internships.
Yeah.
So the four pathways that are the four programs of study under the health sciences pathways are phlebotomist, EMS basic, health careers, and then EMS intermediate. So the basic and intermediate just depends on how motivated the student is to do some extra certifications and some dual credit classes. And then the health careers are for the students that are really wanting to go into a health career, physical therapy, doctors, nurse, any of these that can get all of the courses that they can through high school and then continue.
Go ahead, sir.
One more thing, sorry. We were talking about Skills USA, and there's a student organization that goes along with this pathway as well. It's called HOSA, Health Occupation Student Association. And so we'll be implementing HOSA programs at Acoma High School as well.
Are you also exploring like internships? You were talking about like with the EMS services and Acoma grants, Laguna?
Yes, we are. And that's one of the reasons that we had the summit the other day was to bring everybody together for all of that because a lot of my family works at the hospital and so one of my aunts said we're back open for our internship programs and so I talked to the director at the Laguna and Acoma awards night the other night and he expressed the same thing. So we're in contact with them, we're in contact with all of the people from Laguna and Acoma and our surrounding areas and so we're looking for any of the internships for students that fit students. And so it's one of the things, if we have students that are driving back and forth a long way, we wanna find something that works near them.
Excellent, very good.
Thank
So
you.
we need a.
Roll call? Yes.
Emily Hunt Daly,
Yes.
Alicia Lundstrom,
Yes.
Ron Ortiz.
Yes.
So approved, and we'll look forward to hearing more reports from you.
Mhm.
Let's move on to letter D, consideration of the approval of the NMSB A policy advisories 229 through 232. Your recommendations, Superintendent?
Yes, Madam Chair, Board, I recommend that we do approve this action item as presented.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll move to approve the NMSBA policy advisory 229 to 232.
Do I hear a second?
A second.
Okay. Do you have any discussion? Or did we just move to it?
If there's questions, I'd be glad to, this is the one that Lisa presented on, but we're open to any further questions.
I have a question. So the retiree return to work, would the virtual schools like New Mexico Connections, would they have to abide by this as well?
Yes, Madam Chair, Ms. Lundstrom, yes, they're also guided by the Public Education Department rules and guidelines. Yes.
Okay. And I think we talked about this at the law conference too, the new things that were coming up. Okay. Any more discussion? Let's go for a roll call vote.
Emily Hunt Daly,
Yes?
Alicia Lundstrom,
Yes.
Ron Ortiz.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, you're approved, Ms. Salazar, thank you. Moving on to letter E, consideration of approval of the local government road fund cooperative agreement. Your recommendation, Superintendent?
Madam Chair, members of the board, I recommend that we approve this action item as presented.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Ms. Lindstrom?
No second.
Do we have any discussion? Do you have some information?
Madam Chair, members of the board, so, this is part of, was mentioned earlier where we start the Mesa View Elementary School. There's a lot of surrounding work that needs to be done. Part of it involves a partnership with the city. So we, and Mr. Lee has talked about it in the past, where we're negotiating, some road development around the school.
Right, and in this agreement, what it does is a paving agreement for Gunderson Road, which is on the east side of Mesa View, that provides for bus turnaround, bus delivery, things like that, a drop-off area. As I said, in preparation for the overall project, this is a partnership with the New Mexico Department of Transportation. The entire project is $114,387. Our component would be $28,597, that's what we're committing to, and any overage in the project expenditure as well. So what we're asking the board to approve is the ability for us to sign this agreement moving forward. There's a couple of steps that need to happen, that there will be a resolution that I'll be presenting to Mr. Perez to present to you in the June 21st meeting that governs how all this will be spent and formalizes the agreement, and then they'll start with that project. It'll take 18 months to complete.
Do you have any questions from the board? Sorry.
I don't have any.
And this is a necessary portion of we have to have it, okay. Let's go for a roll call vote.
Emily Hunt Daly.
Yes?
Alicia Lundstrom.
Yes.
Ron Ortiz.
Yes.
Not- Okay, moving right along, okay, I think that's, we're on the. Okay, so we're at the consent agenda, moving on.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I recommend that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, do we need a discussion or roll call vote?
We need a motion.
Motion,
I'll make a motion.
do you have a second?
No second.
Emily Hunt Daly.
Yes?
Ron Ortiz.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, Alicia Lundstrom.
Yes.
Ron Ortiz.
Yes.
Well, we were taking the vote, but I'd just like to, in our training yesterday, we talked about making sure that we knew what we were approving in the consent agenda so that we take, review before it comes before the board. So just to remind us of what they told us was our responsibility. Okay, moving on to the superintendent's report.
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair, members of the board, as you mentioned, we had the law conference just last Thursday, Friday, Saturday. This Cuddy McCarthy, put it on by that law firm. So Ms. Hunt Daly was able to attend, Alicia Lundstrom was able to attend, and Dr. Guy tried to attend until he fell ill. But we were there at that conference. Board members from all throughout the state were there, many superintendents. We had some superintendent meetings while we were there. But there's a series of topics ranging from the beginning of going over the salary increases and all of the latest legislative updates to all of the different angles of legal aspects and schools. And so quite a variety of different topics as we have. And this is an annual event, but I'd just like to share with the public that we were, a few of us were able to attend that conference. And then also yesterday, we had a board training in Albuquerque, which Ms. Hunt Daly, Alicia Lundstrom, and Mr. Ron Ortiz were able to get together in Albuquerque for board training presented by Ramon Montano, who's a former board member, works for the New Mexico School Board Association now. Dr. Melt Williams talked to us about strategic thinking for the board so they can get make their decisions from a different in a different context, lining up with our strategic plan. And then we had our attorney there to talk to the board about the different legalities and protocols in board meetings. So that all took place yesterday. I thought we had a productive work session with the board. Appreciated that. And then, Madam Chair, under my report, I also have to share with the public that summer school activities, the enhanced learning time is up and running, and we're probably in the first couple of days of that. At the many schools, I think most of the classes are pretty small, but it's up and going and operating, and like the transportation is going good. The meals haven't heard any complaints, and looks like so far the students are enjoying. At least that's what I've heard. At least a couple of the comments is that some of the students are enjoying the time with the enhanced learning at some of the schools. And of course, we'll have the K-5 Plus program starting at the beginning of July for 5 weeks. So those folks, teachers who have chose to do both programs are only getting a couple of weeks off for the summer. So hopefully they'll get recharged and ready for a good school year, 22-23. Also, as a request by the board, there was a request for a staffing update, and I asked Ms. Salazar to give a couple of numbers for the board.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, citizens, Mr. Pettis. Yes, at this time this year, we did offer 482 renewals for employees. We had a total of 36 resignations and 18 retirements. And so that was our total. Right now at this time, we have 19 certified positions to fill. So we're at a very good place. And in fact, I have a few principals that have submitted some recommendations for Mr. Pettis to process tomorrow. So we're really at a good place as far as staffing goes for our school district.
Thank you.
And I'm not sure, Mr. Pettis, if you wanted me to include our summer activities for each school and department on the staffing numbers there as well. I do have that information if you'd like to hear about it.
No, we're okay for now.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions from Salazar?
I was just wondering, so the updated vacancies, where can they be found?
Thank you for asking that question, Ms. Lundstrom. So we have our website. So if you go to the GCCS website and go to the HR department, we have two sections. We have a certified section with all of those postings and a classified. And it also links any potential applicant to apply for that position. And it does say click here. So if you just go to the Human Resources Department, all positions opened are posted there.
What about anywhere else? Indeed, Facebook?
Yes, and so as far as advertisement, we go through all of our avenues as far as social media. So we have LinkedIn, we have Indeed, we have Facebook. I'm not sure if you've seen some on our Facebook as far as the district Facebook going out. And so we try to meet every social media avenue as far as advertisement. New Mexico REAP is another avenue that people can locate any positions that we may have for certified staff members, and they can apply there. So yes, ma'am, we try to make sure we advertise in every avenue.
Ms. Salazar, during our law conference, I sat in on a training about how to protect our students due to this recent occurrence in Texas. And to be a little bit more stringent when doing background checks, not just the FBI one, but to also have a contract with another background check organization so that we can ensure that these sort of things don't happen within our, well, within our state, within any state. We really hit on the Gregor incident where the teacher went from I think 3 or 4 states and was continually hired. And unfortunately was doing bad stuff at every school he was at.
Yeah.
And so that might just be, playing caution to the wind here so that we can ensure the safety of our students. Very tragic
Absolutely.
accident, what happened.
Absolutely, that is a priority of ours to provide a safe environment for our students. And so what we do, Ms. Hunt Daly, is they go through a 2 process. So we go through Gemalto. And so in order to be licensed through the state of New Mexico, they have to conduct a background check with the state and they have to clear it. And then we have our employment background as well to follow. And there are very strict guidelines to follow as far as what is acceptable and what's not acceptable. We also have a new law that was put in place this summer, and I know you've heard the term. It's a brash term, don't pass the trash, and that's what you're alluding to as far as teachers not performing at one district and then just moving to the second. So we actually have that in place with our application process. We have to contact that previous employer and they have to divulge any information. And I'm also bound by that information when I'm contacted from a previous employer. So we have all of those safety practices in place. And of course, we will continue to look at it and monitor because we can always get better. We can always be a little bit more proactive in that area.
And we're assured that once they do apply, that they have all this documentation before they set foot in the school, working with students.
Yes, ma'am. They are not allowed to work with students or on the premises until they have passed a background check.
And this goes for coaching staff as well?
Yes, ma'am. All employees with GCCS must, and even volunteers. We had some volunteers that were wanting to volunteer for some activities at the end of the year. And so those parents also had to come and perform a background check. So any adult that is going to be in the presence of our students must go through the background check.
And I think that's really important for our public to know because I sometimes think that they think we drop the ball when it comes to volunteer or to coaches because they're not a permanent member of the staff. And so we just want to make sure that that occurs at every instance.
And this includes our contractors that are coming onto our sites as well. So everyone that comes into our facilities and that are coming in contact or even just passing contact with our students, they must have a background check.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, Mr. Superintendent?
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair. Thank you. Another thing I want to just mention is school site security. Of course, when you have these tragedies throughout the country, it reminds you that we've got to always and never stop thinking about school site security. Right now, we have fewer students on campuses than during a regular school year. However, it's still very important that every school site take every precaution and be as vigilant as possible about the surroundings and continue to improve all of our security processes. As you know, we spend a lot of money on cameras, on fencing, different aspects. We spend a significant amount of money with the ALIS training that we will be continuing to engage with. So hitting it from a lot of different avenues, but we were talking with principals tomorrow to remind them also to step up, review, practice as much as possible of our safety protocols for all of the schools and departments. But the other thing is, that we have an SRO at our Grants High School and one at Lambs. We did have one at Laguna Acoma, And that's gone back and forth. I'm not sure where that stands now. But in addition to the SROs, we've added security. We increased security at both high schools and LAMs this past couple of years. But just to let you know that we have the 2 SROs that we do have on staff right now through the Grants Police Department are going to the police academy this summer. And I was talking to the city manager, and it looks as though they're having trouble staffing the Grants Police Department. So it looks like just we should be prepared that we may not get those SROs back with us, that they may take them to support the Grants Police Department. And so if that does occur, we will be on the lookout to find another source. And one of the possibilities is to talk to the sheriff's department or other departments, because the objective is to make sure that we at the secondary schools, at least for now, is have an armed person at each of those. Unfortunately, well, we're in that day and age, but that's what we're pushing for, to have another layer of protection at our schools. We've always kept the funding for 3 SROs. We've only accomplished 2, but the third one is what we were looking as an at-large, so that we have one station at the high school and at the middle school here. And then the third would be there, but also roaming the elementary schools. At Milan, we're in pretty good shape there because the Milan Police Department does a really good job at watching over Milan and San Rafael and Blue Water, so they have a quick response there if needed. So, changing world, changing staffing needs, but we're gonna continue to push to make sure that we're fully staffed with our security at all of our schools.
And I don't know, maybe Ms. Salazar can, is there a possibility of contracting with a security company? Is that going too far?
No, it's possible. The only thing is, you run some risk. There's very few security outfits that have armed guards. And then, if you do that, there's some, you wanna make sure that they fit all the criteria for liabilities, insurance, and those kind of things. The ideal is to go with a police force that's already established.
Okay, well, let's be like, nothing is not good enough for our students. I mean, we need to, with this day and age, we need to keep them safe at all times. And the staff safe. I know, there were 2 teachers that lost their lives along with their students, and that happens throughout the United States. I mean, a teacher, it's kind of no wonder nobody wants to go into the teaching field anymore. It's kind of scary. Okay, is that all we have? Excellent. Okay, well, you have your announcements there. The Enhanced Learning Program in May. That already happened. June, we went to the law conference. We have a board meeting June 21st. And I think that's probably where we're at. And then some things in July. You don't have a board meeting in July?
Yes, we have one board meeting in July, but Madam Chair, I'd like to also mention that at our next board meeting, June 21st, that's gonna be in person only because we won't have internet access at that meeting.
Okay.
And then our July meeting is
July 12th.
July 12th.
So we'll get to see you on June 21st, in person, face to face.
Yeah.
Do we have anything else?
That's it, Madam.
Yeah, that's finished early. Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second,
Emily Hunt Daly,
yes?
Alicia Lundstrom,
Yes.
Ron Ortiz.
Yes.
And so we adjourn at 6:57. I think that's a record.
No
We
executive.
didn't have an executive session.
Oh, we did have an executive session.
No, we didn't.
He's gonna complain about it.
That's
So he's gonna complain about it.
We don't need to discuss.